Welcome, Vanessa.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Vanessa Assumma. I'm a PhD student of the last year of Urban and Regional Development of Polytechnic University of Turin. Today, I'm going to present a research work entitled Anpsort second method, an experimentation to assess the resilience of a socio-ecological system, in collaboration with the Professor Marta Bottero and Professor Alessio Ishizaka. The goal of this presentation is the development of a multi-criteria decision analysis approach through the analytic network process sorting second method to assess the resilience of a socio-ecological system located in France. This model aims to support decision makers in practicing resilience thinking and to define suitable policies and actions to make territories more resilient. This presentation has been structured in this way. Firstly, I introduce the framing of the problem and the literature review on resilience and sorting methods. Then I'll describe the methodology and the application to the real case study. Subsequently, I'll discuss the results and finally given some conclusive remarks and next steps of this research. Today, our planet continues deteriorating because of the impacts generated by natural hazards, urban dynamics, and the effects of the ongoing climate change. We are assisting to new planning challenges, such as the combination of sustainability and resilience paradigms within urban and regional plans of new generation. And on the other side, we have also an increasing attention of decision makers to consider MCDA techniques to solve complex problems. Among the MCDA techniques, there are sorting methods that are playing a very important role, especially in the topic under investigation. Resilience, as you know, derives from the Latin resilire, and it literally means to bounce back. For this application, we have considered more than 40 years of literature review, in particular researches on the resilience conceptualization and practice. And in the ambit of this application, we are focused on a specific definition of resilience, which is the one given by Marta and colleagues on urban resilience, as the ability of a socio-ecological system to adapt, evolve, and transform itself across different spatial and temporal scales. On the right side of the slide, you can see the increasing attention on sorting methods to support decision making. In fact, we have considered the specific literature contributions of Ishizaka and colleagues in the field of decision making, risk analysis, and education. In addition, we have also made a search about the keyword sorting and resilience, and this combination has been considered only in recent years. So, according to the studies of Ishizaka and colleagues, we propose here an extension of an existing model that is the analytic network process sorting method. We have not so many time to list all the 11 steps that you can see in this slide, but I can synthesize briefly into 3 macro categories. The first one is the problem definition according to a network approach by considering a finite number of alternatives in classes of resilience. The second macro category is the core of the method, and in particular the evaluation by considering local limiting profiles or central profiles with respect to a finite number of classes of performance, the pairwise comparison of the network's element, the selection of the representative points in order to build a value function, the pairwise comparison between the considered elements, the elaboration of the supermatrix of the ANP, and finally, as a last macro category, there is the final aggregation and the classification of the several considered elements. We have added an additional step to facilitate the visualization for the decision makers through the elaboration of GIS-based maps in order to identify the most resilient and the less resilient areas. The case study under investigation is the Champagne-Ardenne landscape located in the Grandis region in France. This territory has been subdivided into 14 territorial clusters, which represent the current administrative French boundaries. We have to build our network model. We have defined a set of indicators to measure the resilience of this territory. And so to identify those indicators which are meaningful for these territories, we have made a preliminary analysis performed within a GIS environment and reached by a SWOT analysis. In this way, it was possible to define a robust set of indicators according to the availability of the data, considering different international, national, regional data sources. So we have built our network model by considering 5 meaningful cluster dimensions. Each dimension has 3 indicators representing the value, the vulnerability, and the coping capacity of the territory under investigation. These nodes of the network have been related to alternative cluster, which is in this case the classes of performance, ranged between the poor and strong resilience. Then we have completed the network model with the relationships and developed within the software super decision. This slide just illustrates the meaning of the classes of resilience performance: poor, medium, good, and strong resilience. This is a first experimentation. In fact, we have focused the survey on an individual one expert opinion, the expert with expertise on urban and regional planning. And after having obtained the results with this experimentation, we have continued the survey by engaging the other experts in sociology, technology, environmental science, and economy. And only in the last days, we are concluding the last step of the survey. This slide represents the first step of the evaluation. So we have contacted the expert of urban and regional planning, sending him supplementary material in order to have a complete overview of the case study under investigation. And we supported him in the filling of this web questionnaire through a specific virtual conference platform. He was asked to identify the most appropriate value to be considered as a limiting profile, for example, the population density between the classes excellent resilience and good resilience. This one was repeated for each considered indicators, and then we have collected the answers and filled in the matrix below. The second step refers to the pairwise comparison of the network's model at nodes level and at the clusters level. Then the expert was asked to identify a number of well-distributed representative points, as in this represented in this slide. And then in order to build the value function, we have subdivided this numerical distribution into 2 clusters to be compared pairwise. Then, after the pairwise comparison, we have reported into a matrix the elaboration of the local priorities. As you can see before, for the 2 clusters, then the 2 clusters have been merged through the joining point, and then we have obtained the normalized priorities. In this way, it was possible to obtain the values function for each indicator. In this case, you can see in the graph, in the histogram, the land tech that is characterized by a different behavior, because this is represented the indicator of vulnerability. So if we have a high index of land tech, it labels obviously a negative situation. Then we have elaborated the supermatrices, unweighted, weighted, limit supermatrix, and then we have obtained the limiting priorities. For this elaboration, we have excluded from the network the limiting priorities related to the classes of performance and normalized, thus obtaining the limiting and normalized priorities W with J. Then this is the last step, the final aggregation, the calculation of the global priorities for each indicator and alternative K, and for each indicator and class using the specific formula. Here you can see just some example about the land take and environmental assessment procedures. And then a spatial visualization of the results in order to facilitate decision makers in the identification of the most resilient and less resilient areas. So we have assigned the classes, and then we have identified those alternatives which are just above or below the classes of performance. In this case, we have made a final tuning between Anpsort and Anpsort second, and for example, taking into consideration the territorial cluster of REM, the expert has redefined this territorial cluster to have a strong resilience. The less resilient territorial cluster is Bar-sur-Aube. 5 clusters have been sorted having a good resilience, and finally 7 clusters have been sorted having a medium resilience. In this case, decision makers can identify suitable policies and actions and make a prioritization for the territories which need an intervention. So in conclusion, the Anpsort has demonstrated its potentialities to sort the resilience of a socio-ecological system at the state of the art. The Anpsort can support planners and decision makers in the planning of scenarios transformation. This application obviously refers to the individual opinion of one expert, but we will complete the survey very soon with the other experts. This expert of urban and regional planning experienced some difficulties in setting the limiting profile. So we have proposed as a future perspective to add a threshold value in the database to aid the experts in a easy identification of the limiting or central profiles. The Anpsort second, obtained by the experts' evaluation, will be grouped together into the group analytic network process sorting second method. And finally, the model will be replicated with the real local actors and stakeholders in order to identify a protocol of actions to increase the resilience of this territory. Thanks very much for your kind attention.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much. And now for the last presentation, thank you, Vanessa. So I open now the turn to all the people in the room who want to ask questions to the 3 presenters we have seen. So please, anybody wants to ask a question, please let me know. I know you can raise your hands or just open your microphones and say, I have a question. I mean, I'm opening time for the 3 presentations. I have taken notes and I have questions for the 3 presenters, but I prefer that you start and then I will go on.
I have a question.
Dima, okay. Welcome, Dima. Do you have a camera? Do you have a camera, Dima?
Let me see if I can.
It's better if we see each other.
Can you see me now?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, hello to everyone. I actually, since my I'm just starting my PhD and I'm exploring the topic of resilience. I noted down some questions for the last presentation as I thought it was kind of relevant to what I'm reading right now. So I wanted to ask Vanessa if she can just briefly cover again like how they decided the indicators for studying resilience. Mm-hmm. And the second question is, what does it mean in practical terms? So when you your preliminary conclusions show that, for example, this Reims region is the most resilient one, does this mean that it is the most likely one to bounce back after a crisis? Does this mean it's the most adaptable, like it's most capable of changing its systems most rapidly? Or what does it mean in practical terms?
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dima. In relation to the first part of your question, I have an experience on resilience for what refer another case study, which is also a wine region. This is the Douro Valley in Portugal. I have made a very deep research of indicators, also with the specific experts, and according to my my background as a urban planner, I used to make GIS analysis, SWOT analysis. In addition, for this specific case study, I have also used a dynamic SWOT analysis in order to identify the degree of influence or synergize of different elements that I have identified. In this case, it was very easy to identify the independent and dependent variables. In this case, finding the suitable indicator, which is site-specific for the case study under investigation. We can use general indicators, which are good for whatever territory, but there are site-specific indicators which assume an importance for the case study under investigation. Okay. And in fact, if you are like me, a PhD student, I suggest to you a paper if you want in private and in the chat. So you can search what you are asking in detail. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I also have a question for you, Vanessa, and I'm not familiar with. I have used the AHP sort, but never the ANP sort.
ANP.
Yeah, I have used the AHP. Well, there is the presentation before you. It's a team work that we did, yeah, for a gender, for developing gender indicators, and yeah, the classification is done with AHP sort. However, I've never seen a paper. Well, I've read a paper, but this is my first presentation with ANP with N sort. So could you please tell me briefly what are the main differences between ANP sort 1 and 2? So why did you choose 2 for your project? This is my question. Okay.
In fact, there was not so time to focus on each specific step of the methodology. We have developed the ANP sort for the individual expert, and we have obtained I can share the screen just a moment, so I can be easy to. Okay, just a moment. Okay. In the assignment, we are obtained the assignment to classes, and we have some alternatives K, which are classified between 2 classes of performance. But our goal is to make a classification of these alternatives in the 4 considered classes of resilience. And in this case, we use the ANP sort second, selecting those alternatives that are included between 2 classes, such as RETEL or Epernay, REMS. And we have asked to the expert involved to reclassify this alternative, considering not only the qualitative classes, but also the score that has been obtained. And in this case, according to the expertise of the expert involved, ANP source second can let's say, redefine and make more robust the final results.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if I understood that, but I think it's this
you
is something that
Monica, as I am as a co-author.
Yeah, I know you are co-author, but I didn't want to ask you directly, Alessio. Yeah.
So is your question, what is the difference between the 1 and 2?
Yeah, this is, well, actually, I have more questions than that because I'm not sure, I don't see the network, because when you put the classes as alternatives,
So
then when she presented the super matrix, right? There were no classes there, right? You left the alternatives out. Is it when you presented the super matrices? I didn't see the alternative, so I was wondering if you first move them out and then you. So I have some questions, but there are many questions.
the interaction is only on the criteria level, so it's not a full ANP if you want.
That's it. Okay, so the network is only for criteria.
It's only for criteria.
Okay, right. Yeah. It's when we apply ratings or so, we leave the criteria, the alternative. Yeah, that's what I thought. But she presented the network with the classes, and then I was wondering how she did it. Okay. Yes. Now, makes sense.
And then NP sort 1, it is for a small number of alternatives. If I have a high number of alternatives, the number of pairwise comparison become very high. Therefore, we don't do pairwise comparison on the alternative, but we do only on some representative point, and then we make a linear interpolation.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So it means there is some approximation, and for the alternative who are very close to the border, we reclassify them with ANP sort 1 because this is precise. And if it gives the same result, then it's fine. If not, we go to the next one until it gives the same results to be sure it is in the correct class.
Okay, so it's like an iterative procedure.
It's iterative until it is correct classification.
Okay. Okay.
We double check.
Okay. And you said also, Vanessa, that you, of course, it is difficult to for the expert to do this classification, and you recommended to put a threshold, in the future, to give a threshold to the experts, right?
Yes, because for this, in particular for this expert that we have engaged, he was in difficult in the first step, the identification of the local limiting profiles, and so he suggested to use a threshold in order to facilitate identification of the local limiting profiles to be between the class excellent and good. So this is a suggestion. We will see in future developments.
Okay, anything that facilitates the expert this work, it's helpful because it's complicated. Okay. Any other questions? I don't have many questions on the first two presentations because they are from my research team, so I know what they did. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I think we can, somebody just came in, I don't know. I think we can close the session, okay? I want to congratulate you three, new PhD, postdoc or about to be a doctor, because Hania just presented her PhD work a couple of months ago, and both Carmen and you, as you said, are going to present it in the next month. So congratulations for the presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it and have learned something about them, and hope to see you in other rooms in this conference. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.